Welcome, and thank you for joining us here at the Smite Masters LAN Day 3. Fans here, I've got Ryan, Agro, Bailey with me on the desk as well, and we have a stacked day of action with huge implications. This is it. If you don't win, then you go home today.
Yeah, that's right. We're only seeing the bottom end of the bracket here today, and so you've got your Space Stations and your Uniteds alongside Nocturnes and Black Dragons. If you lose one of these sets, there's no lower bracket. You're done.
And it's scary, too, because even if you do win, who's going to be waiting for you? Either Dig or Rival is who you're going to be matched up with later. So it feels like whichever way you turn, it's going to be rough for you. But don't worry, it's not going to be nearly as rough for those of y'all at home. We got a couple things to try and make things easier for you. The first thing is that it's going to be 3 times everything this weekend. Get some favors, some worshippers, some fantasy points. This is your chance to prove that you can get more diamonds than Agro here. Agro, how many diamonds do you have?
Actually, not that many.
Well, maybe it won't be that hard.
Yeah, you should be able to do it. I think it's like, because, you know, I split so much time between console and PC. I think on PC I've only got like 8 or 9 diamonds or something like that.
Yeah, and you spend so much time trying to be good at everyone, right? So it's
yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't take that much time for me to be good at everyone.
Oh, right. I didn't mean to imply that,
Yeah, it's fine. I understand what you meant.
Sure, absolutely. Well, not only going to be able to enjoy that favor, but also we got HRX coming up maybe a little sooner than you think. It's going to be November 16th through 18th, and it's going to be at DreamHack. So you want to make sure you grab those tickets. Not just going to be for PC, though. There's going to be the Console World Championships there as well, Paladins, and Paladins Console. So just a ton of hi-rez esports action, and all you got to do is get those tickets to DreamHack to enjoy it.
Make sure you get those tickets early as well. You get a little bit of a discount for going in there early and grabbing them. So now's the best time to do it.
And you never know when those could end up going, right?
That's
so you got to make sure that you grab them while they are there. But let's go ahead and take a look at today and what we can expect here. I think we'll actually be pulling up the schedule here first so you can be seeing what matches to expect. We're going to be seeing Space Station up against Nocturnes first, then E-Unite up against Black Dragons, and then the winners from those matches are going to face off in. I think maybe it's not as guaranteed as we all think. I mean, certainly Space Station and United are the favorites, but I mean, Nocturnes in particular has looked great lately.
Yeah, they had a great setup against United, and I wonder if they match up a little bit better against United than they do against Space Station, but they have to be sort of ready for what Space Station is going to throw at them, because United plays a pretty similar style overall, and they got to watch 3 games of Space Station yesterday up against Dignitas. So Nocturnes really could come in very prepared here.
Yeah, there could potentially be a blueprint out there for how they can at least try and take down the Space Station roster. Let's actually go ahead and take a look at the bracket so we can see exactly these matches. These are the upper brackets where Dignitas and Rival, still undefeated, are going to be hanging out. Only one of those teams can move over to the winners finals for now. The loser will be dropping down to the lower finals where everyone else is kind of trying to slug their way out.
And that's good luck to whoever faces the angry Rival or Dignitas whenever they fall out of that semifinal. And whether or not it's Space Station E-United or Nocturnes or Black Dragons, you know that at least 1, if not 2, really quality teams are going home today. Out of North America specifically. We're definitely losing at least one of those NA favorites.
And it's just crazy how much talent there is down here in the lower bracket, but that's what makes these double elim brackets so strong, is that you get a chance to maybe see some adaptations or more matchups than maybe you would otherwise. So hopefully that's what we'll be getting to see some of here today, Ron.
Yeah, I'm excited. I wonder what lessons Space Station took from their loss against Dignitas. You know, if they're going to still stay with the Hunters mid and trying to pressure out red buffs, or if they're going to try and adapt a little bit here today.
Well, talking to Nocturnes, they felt pretty confident about their chances, specifically about that double Hunter in particular. So we actually have an interview with Nocturnes here standing by. Go ahead and take a look.
Welcome, Nocturnes, for day 3. Space Station Gaming are your opponents today. How are you feeling going into this one?
We're feeling good. We know that they are a really strong team, so we are going to try our best.
Now, you did, since they're down in the lower bracket, get to see them actually lose some sets. Did you guys learn anything from watching their set yesterday, like maybe like against the double Hunter comp, or anything in particular that you think maybe that you all can replicate in your set?
Yeah, we watched their games and we saw what they did bad or wrong, so we are going to try to punish their mistakes in these games.
What's your expectation on the result then, overall? 2-1? 2-0?
2-1 maybe.
2-1 to Nocturnes?
Yes, correct.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I know that you all are not short on confidence. I think it's well-earned. You've been playing really well this weekend. In particular, I feel like Smite's been playing so well. I mean, talk to you a little bit about what y'all have been doing there to try and help out in the jungle.
I'm just trying to follow the other jungle, trying to do the same, because, well, they are the top jungles and trying to be on the respawn timers every time I can, and that's it, I think.
I guess my last question is, what's so difficult against NA and EU teams that you guys have trouble with the most? What is it that they have that you guys kind of struggle with?
I think that they are really good around objectives, like their rate and the focus on the objective is really good. And I think maybe we have to improve in it, but that's it, I think.
Yeah, and NA is playing the double hunter comp, and if you let them bait the Gold Fury just 2 seconds, they destroy Gold Fury because of the 2 hunters. So it's really difficult to play against.
So you've got plans against the double hunter today then?
Yeah.
Awesome, good to hear. Well, congratulations, good luck today. Best of luck, we'll see you later on.
Thank you.
Well, that was a look there at Nocturnes. Beltway, a very confident guy, and always knows that his team can pull it out and definitely has that trust in them. And I think they've got good reason to feel that confident here, even though it is Space Station, some real NA giants they're going up against.
I mean, they went up against an NA giant of their own right in E United, the defending world champions, and they really should have won that game 1. And so I wonder what Nocturnes is going to change up from that game. Their early game it seems to be pretty strong, but their late game was a little bit lacking. I wonder if they're going to go for those early game compositions and try and just get ahead and really punish Space Station in the early game, or are they going to try and work on their late game, pick gods that can enhance their late game and kind of focus on that? Because if your late game isn't that great as a team, you aren't a great team fighter, sometimes you can pick gods that will do so well in that stage of the game that it'll kind of carry you through that point of the game.
Well, that'll be the call for them. Where do they want to try and prioritize? We heard them talking about in the interview, Ryan, that they feel like these NAEU teams are better playing around the objectives, and I think that's a really good observation that they've been able to make. These NAEU teams have so much experience, they can recognize small windows to take Gold Fury, to take Pyromancer, and start building incremental leads, even if maybe the fights are even.
I talked about it on Wednesday when it was the international round for these international squads going up against the SPL level teams, and SPL teams make you make so many micro decisions that you have to answer correctly, and it only takes one for you to say, oh, we were a little bit late on this respawn timer, or we didn't check gold at the right time, and SPL teams will win the game off of you missing one small decision like that. And I think that's the lesson that Nocturnes learned on Wednesday against E United, and I'm excited to see how well they've applied that lesson to their gameplay.
And they make you make the small decisions, which make all the others' decisions harder from then on, right? It's like if you make the wrong call on the first one, well, not only do you have to make another tough choice, but this time you're that much more behind, right? So it just kind of gets exponentially worse, it feels like, and they keep putting you to that question. That's what these SPL teams are able to do so well, and it's what Nocturnes, at least we saw in that E United set, that they do have some answers to, so hopefully they'll be able to replicate that and bring it here versus Space Station.
Yeah, and a lot of it was build-oriented. That was a lot of my feedback after the game, was that I didn't like a lot of the builds they were going for. I mean, E United ran the double hunter against them and just wasn't the build wasn't quite there for specifically Noitulover. Didn't was going Heartward Amulet still as a support player against one magical damage dealer. I think if they clean up even the little things like that, it's going to be much easier for them to win this game.
Well, they do have very difficult opponents standing opposite them in Space Station Gaming. We actually had a chance to sit down and talk with them as well and get their thoughts heading into this set.
Space Station today, you're going to take on Nocturnes this morning. First of all, my first question is, why is it always you two that do the interviews?
We're on the team to do the interviews, and that's really why we're here.
And they're on the team to win the games, and that's why we're here.
Very well executed there, boys. So as you mentioned, you are going to be going now up against Nocturnes here in this set. They sounded confident, like they feel like they got an answer to maybe double hunt, or how are you all feeling going into this set? Are you all worried that they might be able to take a couple games? I mean, how are y'all feeling going into this set?
Pretty confident. We've been able to watch a lot of their games, know what they're going to pick. And it seems like they've got a few strats, we've got a few strats, but besides that, their picks seem pretty standard. So it looks like they play like, I would say like an NA EU team.
Now, obviously, you played against Europe yesterday, as did E United. You guys are obviously in the losers bracket, not trying to go rub it in anymore there. But what I do want to ask is that to do with the meta, there's always conversations around LAN time about which meta is better. Do you believe these still function as well as each other? Is one favored more than another, you reckon, now with how things are looking?
Honestly, I think both sets went 2-1, right? They just kind of got a game over it. I don't necessarily think that their meta or what they're doing is better. I think it just happened that both sets went 2-1. So it definitely easily could have been the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think the international teams, especially Nocturnes and Black Dragons, have looked really good here at this LAN. Would there have been one between the two you'd have preferred to watch, or do you kind of consider them both at the same level here now? They are scrim partners, so do you feel like maybe you match up just better against either one of those squads?
No, I would say pretty much both of them I respect equally. There's not one that I'm going to go in like scared against or like overly excited to play. I would just say like both of them are pretty much even for me.
I'm going to be cheeky and ask, you guys mentioned you might have some more strats. Is there anything special we could look forward to, the fans at home could look forward to today?
Bacchus every game.
Oh,
Is he back?
Oh, he's back. Well,
I've been waiting for it, Jeff. It's been a while.
it's been a little bit.
I played a Poseidon ADC game in ranked, so might see that.
It might do a little bit better than usual. I mean, to be fair, you did well yesterday. Anyway, thank you so much for your time, BaRRa. Have a wonderful day, Space Station. We'll speak to you later on.
Thank you.
Man, I don't know who that reporter was, but he sure was savage, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, maybe
Wow.
maybe the gambler. I've heard he's walking around. I don't know, something like that. I guess
His face was hidden. I didn't really know who he was, but man, that was savage, all right.
Not just savage, but just straight up incorrect. BaRRaCCuDDa had possibly the best game of the split, or the best set of the split for him. I mean, didn't he look great on the Hachiman in particular? So
Yeah.
I don't know. Whoever that guy is, what does he know?
I'm not even gonna go in there and say not a whole lot. I'm sure whoever he is, he's a very intelligent, strong, kind, attractive man. I'm sure.
I'm worried that you just started devolving into falsities there. I don't know what that was.
Oh, which one was false, Finch?
The one where he is nice.
Okay, yeah, that one's false.
Space Station, though, that is going to be the team that's going to be going up against Nocturnes here. And you heard Jeff kind of talking about it, that maybe there's not really a weakness to the NA meta. Both sets went 2-1, right? They were both very, very close. So it could have gone either way. It's not so much that North America are that much weaker. It just feels like maybe a couple team fights or a couple picks not quite went their way.
I completely agree with him. I think that despite NA losing both sets against Europe yesterday is not indicative of that their meta that they thought was very good is any worse than what EU thinks is good. I think you take a look at each set. In the EU United set, EU United dominates game 1, and then game 2, a couple mechanical mistakes lead to Deathwalker getting a quadra kill,
right?
And the game is basically over from there because Deathwalker got a quadra kill very early in the game. In game 3 was very close, a couple mechanical mistakes again, but Rival executes very well and Rival wins game 3. And again, this isn't to take away anything from the European sides, but I think that if you look at these sets, there were just moments that you go, well, this wasn't really meta dependent. This was we messed up because of another reason, or they played well outside of the meta. In the Space Station set, Cubo Fred just played really well. I don't think that has anything to do with what meta NA was playing or what EU was playing. That was just Cubo Fred putting his foot down and saying, I'm winning this set now for my team. I don't think that's meta dependent. So I completely agree with what Jeff had to say. I don't think that NA teams should abandon what they've been working on and what they think is good. I think they should stick to their guns and try and keep it going, gain some momentum now against a really good Nocturnes or Black Dragons team,
right?
And then try and try and get revenge back later on in the losers bracket.
And I think it'd be fair to say for the most part their game plan was working. Didn't seem like they had a really strong focus on the enemy red buff in that set, right? Like repeatedly invading it to try and get their opponent behind. In particular, Zeros was really far behind in game 2, right? So that's something that a strategy for them that I think was working, and it's one that I think Nocturnes needs to make sure that they're cognizant of. Clearly, Space Station will pick something, try and strip it away and build their advantage around that. Nocturnes can't let them do it repeatedly.
Agreed, and it happened to Arco as well in game 2 in particular, where he was very far behind, and that's what allowed BaRRa to play very aggressively and look very good on that Hachiman. So if I'm on Nocturnes here, I'm absolutely picking around my duo lane and my mid lane and trying to make sure that we can fight whenever Space Station inevitably comes for that red buff.
And this is why I don't like when people just look at the KDAs at the end of the game. Obviously, Zero's is a monster. So is Argol, right? But if you look at their KDAs for game 2, you're like, oh, they didn't show up. That's not. I think that Space Station had a game plan, and those are the ones that got hurt by it. So really, instead of saying that one player didn't show up, it's that the game plan worked in that situation. So always make sure you look at the whole context, as we are in picks and bans now for game 1 between Nocturnes and Space Station.
Man, surprised that Space Station leave open that Janus here for AderHoulder. He looked so good on it on Wednesday, and Space Station had the game against Dignitas where they lost to Zeros as Janus, and I truly mean that they lost just to Zeros as Janus. And AderHoulder doesn't have the track record of Zeros, but certainly showed that he could perform on this god and can do good things on it.
Well, we'll see if he can get that going for him here again, but I agree he was one of their heroes for Nocturnes in that United set. Spacestation Gaming, though, they go Hachiman Sylvanus, and Sylvanus has been kind of the pick for Jeff here, it feels like, at this LAN so far. I believe he played it in all their matches, in all their games yesterday, and going to it right here again in this set, so they have some comfort there. They definitely rely on having that Sylvanus as part of this squad.
Interesting. So Nocturne's clearly very prepared. They lock in Chulainn right away, and this is pressure on the right side of the map. More so, I think, to leave Beltway alone and not have to worry about what Aquarius and andinster are going to do on that right side of the map. I can't imagine that Nocturnes is picking pressure on the right to try and play around the right side of the map, because I don't know how you could watch what Spacestation did yesterday and come out with, oh, we should just win the solo side, because Spacestation doesn't seem to care much about the solo side. They're really focused on the left side of the map. So this, in my mind, is Beltway getting a god that he knows he'll be A-OK on. He'll get pressure, even against a god like Hercules, who I think is a smart pickup here by Spacestation to make sure that Aquarius gets a priority pick before the second ban phase. Andinster and Baskin have such wide god pools that you're not too worried about what they're picking. Nocturnes now need to worry about their duo lane, though. What pressure gods are they going to be able to get on that left side?
And what a luxury if you're Spacestation Gaming to be able to say, well, maybe we don't care too much about what happens on the solo side. I mean, I think Aquarius is on the Achilles when he almost found the kill in the 2v1 gank. I mean, they really can trust that guy so much in the solo lane, even if they're not giving him a lot of support, to be able to still do well for them. So it's part of what makes that Spacestation roster so hard to beat. Also kind of surprised here that Serket was the determining factor in the set between Spacestation and Dignitas. And without a doubt, yes.
Spacestation don't take it, despite having the option to do so. And no Hunters mid this time. It's going to be Raw for Baskin. And that doesn't surprise me. I think that Spacestation knew that Nocturnes was very ready for the Hunters mid, because they played it so often in their set against Dignitas. So instead, they switch it up a little bit. Raw is doubling down on the sustain. And now that Ravana and Chulainn are locked in, Nocturnes probably doesn't seem to want to go Odin very much. But I think Odin, Hu-Yi are your best two picks right here, because Odin obliterates everyone on Spacestation. Everyone does not want to get stuck in that Odin cage. And while, yes, you'd have 4 physicals, and it's not ideal, at least you're getting, I think it's worth the payoff. You're getting pressure. You can fight on your own red buff with Odin in the early game. He can defend his buffs very, very well. And it's so good against Spacestation's comp.
The call here, though, appears to be to go into that Fafnir selection, so maybe already having the Chulainn is why they felt like maybe not going with the Odin, but they go with Fafnir here, and that's going to be the selection for them. So going to be relying on the Dwarf to try and get this done and deal with, as you pointed out, that double sustained comp that Spacestation now has for themselves, even with an Erlang to go along with it.
Interesting. Erlang Shen kind of taking a page out of Sino's book from Splice. He's been a big fan of this Erlang Shen jungle for Splice there. And look, it's pretty good. It does good. I think Erlang is a heavily underrated character. I just think without the cripple anymore on Pin, Janus is able to get away from him fairly easily. Nocturnes might be able to just outrange this Erlang Shen a lot of the time. His real strength is chase potential and stick potential onto mages that can't really get away and hunters that can't really get away. And Janus and Ram can in that regard. So I don't know that I'm in love with the Erlang pick, but it is phenomenal setup for Baskin in the mid lane.
That'll work well for him to follow up with those snipes immediately, and we can trust Baskin to be right there for it. There's no chance that he'll be off the mark with those, with how well that he's been playing lately. But you got these two rosters kind of laid out in front of you here, both picks. Do you think you're leaning anyway just on rosters? I know you might be favoring Spacestation a bit, but just on rosters.
I think I'm going to go with Spacestation. If Nocturnes would have gone Odin, I would have picked them. But I think they really missed an opportunity by not locking that.
Well, sounds like still, even with the drafts leaning a little bit towards the way of Spacestation, let's go ahead and see how they put those picks into action here with Game 1.
Really excited to see this one. Tom Ballinger and Taco here getting ready for game number 1. And when it comes down to it, I really, really love this Nocturnes draft. I am with Aggro a little bit. Would have liked to see that Odin, but I think there's a lot of positivity on this side.
I do, but I also feel like this is going to turn into one of those circumstances where it's a race against the clock. A team like Spacestation certainly going to know how to drag out a game in order to play to their own strengths, because it's evident that Nocturnes are looking for this team-oriented play style. I mean, that's what's always worked best for them, or at least it's where they found most of the success in this land so far. And for Spacestation, however, every single one of their players, or gods I should say, has some form of self-sustain.
Yeah, and that might be a problem in I think, the mid-game. Right now, Spacestation has done a good job of splitting Nocturnes up. If they want to go aggressive, they can. But now it's Nocturnes that actually sandwiching And he finds a good knockup. Beltway already taking half HP. There's a big flip from Aquarius, but Noitulover not controlled enough. So because of that early game, Nocturnes is going to be able to make it out of there no problem whatsoever. Really nice stuff. I thought Spacestation might be able to get the okie doke.
It was a possibility there, but just not enough body blocks. They needed to properly circle around somebody, and there were moments where, for a second, you thought that Spacestation were going to be able to get into position, but level 1, hard to do so. Aquarius with a nice Earthbreaker, but no driving strike.
So here coming into this one, speaking about the compositions as a whole is kind of what we were doing before. I want to mention kind of, not even individually, but bit by bit, Beltway and SmiteVOD have been standout players for Nocturnes, not just in this LAN week, but you know, historically in the regular season and even beyond. You're enabling these players with the Chulainn and the Robin to start things off aggressive and kind of be carries on that right side.
And this seems more like a calculated risk from Spacestation over anything else, because you know that SmiteVOD has a really nice Robin. You know that the guy has performed plenty of times and clutched out a couple of wins already for Nocturnes, and if Spacestation are able to defeat Nocturnes when they're running probably their most preferred solo jungle composition, then that's going to put Nocturnes into a pretty tight spot, I think.
Sure. Yeah, I'll definitely agree with that one. At the same time, across the way, I was really excited during the picks and bans to see Beltway take away that Chulainn from Aquarius, because Aquarius, we've seen him be step forward more and more and be this carry. And not only do I like the shot from Nocturnes to sort of show that respect and take it away, but I love that Spacestation are entrusting their solo laner, like, look, you're a star just like the rest of us. Take this Hercules and do some carry work.
I think that Spacestation did a great job distributing their pressure. Speaking of which, AderHoulder going to eat the one out of Baskin. Celestial Beam putting in some nice damage, but Andy couldn't follow up. Ends up getting rooted himself by SmiteVOD.
Nice job from the Robin player there, able to just control just a little bit, save his mid lane. Aggression on the left side as well. BaRRaCCuDDa dishing out the basics, bringing Zaionsix down to the yellow. So great job from the NA Hunter, who people have said that, you know, BaRRaCCuDDa has not been the standout performer this split, but Finch has been mentioning a lot specifically. This LAN, BaRRaCCuDDa's really stood up.
I think that's just one of those things that you kind of expect to happen. I think that all around Spacestation are at a firm understanding that we have to do something here, because even though it's just the first LAN, and while this might not necessarily be as important, it's not a Worlds qualifier by any means, it's still pride on the line.
And I think it sets a tone as well for the season. Things are very different now here in Season 5. We've got these dedicated teams, no relegation, and the way the orgs are all bought in, things seem a little bit more permanent. We still have had like roster swaps and it's still happening. I don't think we're going to see the implosions, the roster apocalypses that we've seen in the past. So I think setting the tone and getting your team underway in this spring split is, I don't want to say a preseason because there's very much money on the line, but this is a way to sort of set your mentality for the rest of the year.
And not to mention, though, it's also pretty exciting because this is the other side for Nocturnes. I mean, well, actually hold that thought, because Andy's going to blink over the wall, trying to engage onto AderHoulder, but a quick little portal through into his own red buff, going to make sure he stays safe. Love what Spacestation are doing, though, continuing to follow up with the aggression. BaRRa not going to get the IG2 stun that he was looking for into Zion, but that's going to prompt the sprint.
Oh, the purple buff defended by Nocturnes. Really good stuff there. And here comes the jungler as well. 0 kills on the board so far. Nocturns Gaming's first blood against Space Station. BaRRaCCuDDa is going to go down, but the response from Space Station is big. Zaionsix hanging on by a thread. The Wisps won't do it. He'll live. Nocturnes with the first blood. And Jeff eventually with the dot takes out the enemy hunter.
Oh no, but SmiteVOD, he ran into the jungle straight into Baskin. Baskin, I don't think he connected with that Celestial
He did
beam.
it, but he's 5. Ooh.
He wanted the buff. Are you kidding me, Baskin? You're going for the buff over the kill?
I like that. I don't think the ultimate kills SmiteVOD. I don't think he's able to chase him down. He goes for the buff just in case.
I don't know. I think an ult
Do you think it kills him?
into the auto attack, Baskin's got that every single time. I think it kills him.
Can we see how much HP SmiteVOD has right now?
Well, right now he's regen quite a lot.
Right, but we can kind of do the math. I don't know, he's half HP. I don't know.
Nah, he regen too much off of
Little bit of a coin
the
flip
buff.
there.
But I think that Baskin could have probably secured that one. I understand that getting the enemy team's red buff would have been nice.
He had 300 HP at the time, so you know what? Sounds like you're right, Taco. Sounds like
It's every mid laner, dude. They need the red buff.
Uh-oh. Served up and shut down. Aquaman. You know, I said it right in the beginning. I was like, look, Spacestation trusting the solo laner. He's been fantastic since they acquired him. He started out as a perfect role player, and recently he's really stepped up and started to be this hard carry or this option, and it's really nice to see him do it.
Oh, speaking of which, Aquarius might not be done just yet. He's going to serve up SmiteVOD as well really quick here. Take him down all the way.
Yep.
So he's back underneath his T1 tower there in solo. And most of the time, junglers are just looking to soak in these kind of circumstances. But right now, Beltway and SmiteVOD need to be careful of Aquarius on this invade.
Yeah, all the vision is there. There's the flip. There's the kick. The blue buff will be secured by Nocturnes somehow. In between that combo, finding the last hit. Or I think it actually came after the driving strike, believe it or not. So, nice look there coming out from Nocturnes.
I think it was just a smart response from Spacestation and Aquarius to go for the Hercules. Speaking of which, though, there's the Searing Pain we were looking for, and the damage followed up when the pin means that Andy gets credit for the kill onto it there in the mid lane.
Really impressive when Aggro was talking about how the changes to Erlang Shen have sort of taken away some of his lockdown potential, right? Now, the Janus is away from a wall. He's not going to be bothered if that's a cripple or not. But I'm impressed that Baskin gets the shot off of the knockup. So basically, yes, Erlang Shen doesn't really have all that much crowd control to confirm Baskin's nonsense, but Baskin just needs the tiniest bit of setup. The knockup's fine. Andy's showing us why this pick is going to be good.
It just reminds you of Eager all over again.
Yeah.
Back when Best and Aurora would run this non-stop, it was for a reason. That knockup is great. Best CC in the game, and that's part of the reason why you can't avoid the Searing Pain damage. And a player like Baskin gonna be hard fought to make him miss off of a knockup.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you get frozen or otherwise stunned, you can beads and aegis, right? But if you're knocked up, you can't hit anything while you're in the air. So if you get blinked on and knocked up, you're probably not gonna have the reaction time.
And also, just before that had even gone down, Aded had been forced out of his purification bead.
Sure.
So, knowing that Spacestation had the timer of that as well, Janus has to play incredibly safe. And I really like the start of this game for Nocturnes. I think that SmiteVOD put his pressure in the right spot, invading on, or not invading, but helping to relieve his dual lane of the pressure that Jeff and BaRRa were putting against it was a strong choice. It was just unfortunate that in the solo lane, Beltway wasn't able to hang on to things. I agree. Yeah, Beltway kind of has to make sure that he can sort of come back from this solo kill already. You know, 2 levels down. That's not a great look for the solo laner that's been actually really strong. It's incredibly rough for the Ravana jungle as well, because you're relying on scaling off of your base damage in order to deal that heavy impact early on. I mean, that's why you play the warrior jungle to begin with. It's just because the base damage scaling is so ideal at times. And so for Aquarius to already have a 2-level lead over Beltway, that might encourage SmiteVOD to kind of hang around the solo lane more often. But if you do that, just look at the rest of Spacestation's composition. You've got Sylvanus, you have a Hachiman and Baskin, and now you might have a dead in the mid lane if it wasn't for that through space and time.
JeffHindla waiting on the other side, trying to get out of there, but SmiteVOD is going to get some help. Beltway from the north and 2 players from the west. Here comes Trouble out of Nocturns Gaming. Trouble is andinster, gets shot by the last hit from Zaionsix. Huge rotation out of Nocturnes. That is a textbook punish for the way Spacestation came in here. Beautiful out of the dual lane.
That's just exactly what Nocturnes has to find. And even though Spacestation thought that they were able to take the initiative there, I love seeing the dual lane immediately shoot through those Janus portals as soon as they see Aded on the escape route. And that was oh man, that was just really, that's the textbook response to that. Really nice stuff. Fundamentally sound Nocturns Gaming right there. And shouts to SmiteVOD. We just watched him take andinster's experience camp on the right side. That's the 2nd time in a row that he's been able to do that. So Andy got the kill, but still ahead in experience as SmiteVOD. It's also important that Zion gets the last hit there, because as the hunter, making that sort of rotation is a heavy commitment. You're missing out on that dual lane farm. And the creep XP, well, you can see how beneficial it is looking at BaRRaCCuDDa's level. He's sitting at 9. Zion is at 8, despite being 2-1. Yeah, that's and it's about 75% of the level, so it's a decent lead as well. Beltway and Aquarius' jungle snatches away the blue buff, but now he's getting punished for it a little bit.
Or rather, that's his own blue buff. My mistake. Aquarius not able to get that invade.
I want to see SmiteVOD avoid hovering the solo side because you kind of just have to accept your losses. I think that you need to cut them as quickly as possible. I like this, though.
This is what,
that is nice. I totally understand. I
Repeatedly.
mean it more so in the sense of trying to gank Aquarius at all. I think you just have to accept Beltway took the L in that laning phase and wait for the team fight to start working its way around, because if SmiteVOD were to place more emphasis towards the mid-end duo, they could probably find some solid counter engagements like what we just saw.
At the same time, Beltway has been able to sort of climb back into this one. Previously 2 levels down, now just a single. Oracle's going the way of Space Station, and a large grouping around that Gold Fury, but not willing to commit to it just yet. Absolutely tie game here at about 10.5, so not really an opportunity. Nocturnes could definitely punish them if they wanted to go for that objective.
And Space Station have a deep ward on Nocturne's red buff, so they probably spotted out there 2 members there. Those 2 would have most likely been able to hear if a Gold Fury was occurring or notice that, hey, everyone else on the map went missing. So Space Station going to have to wait a little bit longer before looking to pull that first Gold Fury.
Space Station Gaming right now, Baskin on the rise. Look pretty clean. Going to miss those right side oracles, and absolutely on target with his abilities so far, but hasn't really had the opportunity. Space Station usually gets going early, and Nocturnes have done a great job of kind of stemming the bleeding. Andy had a great solo great kill combined with Baskin in the middle lane, and then some aggression over there on the duo side. But Nocturnes able to come back, and Zaionsix with 2 kills I think is a nice look if Nocturnes is going to go the distance.
Something that I'm curious about even is we know that Black Dragons and Nocturnes are scrim partners, but I wonder how much of this land they've actually talked about. Speaking of which, thought Noito was going to jump in there for a moment, see if they could get a dive going onto BaRRa, but thinking better of it. I like that they just choose to keep farming.
Yeah, too far with the dash. I think if Fafnir walked up a little higher, we might have been able to see that. Aquarius still bullying Beltway over here, bringing him down pretty low, about half HP off of the flip kick. That'll confirm the blue buff invade. No real help from Nocturnes here on the right side. And you said that's the correct way to play for SmiteVOD. Just kind of give that up.
He can't really afford to be there, because even if he does rotate, Space Station are just going to immediately pull the Gold Fury. And on top of that, Aquarius probably still ends up getting that blue buff. I wouldn't be surprised to see Aquarius drop the Herc Boulder just to make sure that he gets it. And he could probably 2v1 with the Glass Shield online.
Big grouping here from Space Station looking for the red buff. Nice and easy steal for the North Americans. I think they were asking for a fight. They're looking for the red buff and hoping that Nocturnes would take it. There's the ultimate from the Guardian, and BaRRaCCuDDa gonna get jumped on. SmiteVOD pulled out by JeffHindla, but now he's isolated and surrounded. Shots from the sky, and here comes the mid laner as well. SmiteVOD, the jungler, makes the rotation, but it's Zaionsix that gets the kill.
Beautiful punish by Nocturnes, making sure to take out BaRRa, but Aquarius is rotated over to the dual lane now. He's done messing around in solo. SmiteVOD still on the run. 3 members of Space Station surrounding him. Gonna use the overhead kick, but it's not enough as BaRRaCCuDDa takes him down.
1 for 1, and beautiful timing on the rotation from Aquarius. He already got his blue buff, so there's nothing that Beltway can really invade or take advantage of. He's going to get a little bit of tower damage, but that's not a big deal.
I think, yeah, his TP was still on cooldown.
Yeah.
Rather unfortunate for Beltway, too, because Aquarius might have even had the timer of that, because Aquarius used his TP, and he has an early upgraded TP just to ensure that those sort of plays can happen.
That's a big deal for Space Station. That's one of the reasons they picked up this player in the beginning of the year. Aquarius was on a very, very low-ranked team at the time, but definitely stood out. His team fight prowess is what attracted Space Station to the solo laner. Now he can stand up and sort of be, it's kind of funny, he was kind of the additional sort of oomph to this team originally, and I repeatedly say that this is the reimagining of the Season 1 World Championship BaRRaCCuDDa team, and little by little, Aquarius is starting to remind me of that Omega type person who is the beast in the team fight, but also just kind of this big bodyguard for the whole team.
That's all Aquarius really needs to be, though, because Andy is going to probably be covering the whole diving the backline. portion of things. Aquarius needs to just help out Jeff with the front line and the peel, but with the way the Space Station are playing, pretty much everybody's the front line because they're so aggressive. And Nocturnes, I think, have done a great job at responding, but I would like to see them taking some more initiative plays like what we just saw earlier in the duel lane where they collapsed on top of BaRRaCCuDDa and Jeff.
Right. Love that play on the red buff. BaRRa gonna grab the, ooh, well, gonna get fought a little bit, and Andy just waiting for the Hunter. He just comes out to the sky, he goes. Guardian's here, but so is Jeff. Rotation out of the mid lane Mage, however. Ram almost certainly toast when he hits the ground, and he will be. The rotation from the mid lane not going to be swift enough. So Nocturnes lose their tier 1 and their Hunter. It looks like Space Station might be thinking about the Gold Fury here.
That's exactly what they're thinking about, and that is so unfortunate if you're Zaion. I totally understand why he would take the bait there. Andy, just the patience of a lifetime, sitting inside of that purple buff waiting to blink over the wall. Noito gonna get spotted out by andinster and forced back. No chance to even get into the middle of that Gold Fury pit as Baskin secures it for the team.
This could be trouble though. Space Station looking for the chase. Beltway from the right side. Smite and AderHoulder gonna drag players up towards the north. Smite gonna get pincered here though. Again, Beltway distracting Aquarius. A Raven jump over the wall. 2 players on the chase up north. 2 players on the chase down south. Going to be pinned up. There's the Aegis so far. Smite by himself. Doesn't have the ultimate available. Gets knocked up. Gets pulled. And this one looks like a kill for Spacestation Gaming. Half a dozen. And Baskin gets his first kill of the contest.
And you can't even really tell when Space Station are just going to turn it on. It's just like that. The one call is made and everybody responds instantly. The way that they swarm SmiteVOD and choose to invest their sprint, it might look like overkill, but it's all about what comes afterwards. And for Space Station, that's the Pyromancer. That's just establishing further map pressure, letting Nocturnes know you cannot enter this jungle.
Smite is also the guy on Nocturnes that's going to be able to punish those team fights the most, I think. Space Station right now have gotten a nice 2,000 to 3,000 gold lead by way of the objectives. And that said, things are still relatively even. So Space Station, when they force those 50-50s around the objectives, the 1.5, 2 level lead that Raven had originally, you could kill a whole bunch of people at half HP.
I think that was also the first time that Space Station even bothered trying to mess with SmiteVOD. I'm pretty sure they all knew that those Harpies were being stripped off cooldown, which is part of the reason why he's still slightly ahead of Andy in XP. But Andy had enough of it. He wants his jungle back, and probably let the rest of his team know based off of that rotation.
Well, it certainly paid dividends there. Jungle catching up just a little bit. andinster looking for the same play here on Zaionsix. Same play, same location. Looking over the wall, Ram to the sky, surrounded by 2, and down he goes. BaRRa with the last hit. 3-1-1 for the Georgia Hunter.
I don't want to ever hear John Salter complaining about getting ganked again based off what he's making Andy do to poor Zaion over here.
Yeah. Real big camp on the Ram. Want to make sure that Space Station Gaming going the long distance, and Nocturnes has to be able to match that. If Ram gets shut down, they're going to have a harder time matching that in the late game.
Yeah, Nocturnes are definitely looking for a little bit more of that late game potential. And they have a strong dual lane still. All things considered, Zaion slightly behind now in terms of experience and gold. I think where it's really going to hurt him is the itemization. Experience usually isn't even that big of a deal. It's really just falling an item or 2 behind your lane opposition where things start to become more difficult. He doesn't have the Ichaival like what BaRRaCCuDDa opted for prior to building the Executioner, and instead seems as though Zaion has more interest in maybe building into an Aussie or a kin size.
I mean, this is a prime example. I really love this. This is a great teaching tool. BaRRaCCuDDa built into the Ichaival specifically because they wanted to fight on that side. Now, Ichaival is just a strong item these days, but Ram isn't building it because he wanted to not fight. He wanted to just get that power spike online, whereas BaRRa going for that bridge item, he's able to fight, and that's why they were able to take advantage.
And there's like 2 different ways to look at an Ichaival pickup as well if you're a hunter. One is that it's a win more item for sure. If you're already ahead in the lane, it's only going to further your boxing prowess and make you even more of a threat. But if you're behind, it's just a great item in order to help you try and catch back up, give you some of that 1v1 potential. And I do feel as though Zaion might have been better off had he opted for the Ichaival as well, but I can't fault him for going straight towards the Executioner because of the composition he's up against.
Exactly, and I think it's kind of like how you said, sort of give up the solo lane. Like, you're not getting a blue buff. Sorry, buddy. Like, it's over. I kind of feel the same way with the Hunter. Like, you lost your tier 1. You're not fighting BaRRaCCuDDa. Don't even try to box him. So rather than invest that, you know, that gold into the Ichball, look for something that'll just have a bigger impact.
I think if I'm Nocturnes, hold that thought here, though, because Beltway could be in a lot of trouble. Already recognizes it. Will be able to juke out Aquarius' ultimate, fortunately enough for him, but it might not be over yet.
The pull! JeffHindla out of control right there. Spacestation beyond the tier 1 tower. Nocturne's going to return, but it's 4 players strong. Trouble is AderHoulder takes care of JeffHindla. Aquarius surrounded by 3. Smite zoning out andinster. Aquarius gets portaled, hit by some of the damage. There's damage from a distance from Baskin. Big heal for Aquarius, but it won't be enough. 4-player collapse, and Nocturnes answer back with 5 kills in total, 2 in that exchange.
Beautiful punish by Nocturnes there, recognizing the overcommit by Spacestation, diving onto the T2 tower. Beltway lived just long enough for the rest of his team to make it, but it comes at a cost, or a price, I should say.
What a terrible time for that to happen.
T2's gone. BaRRaCCuDDa and co gonna make sure to take out the Gold Fury as well. Ader doesn't have that through space and time to get into the brawl in time, but SmiteVOD could possibly do something about it.
Baskin with the ultimate. That was, I don't even care about the tier 2 tower, whatever, your Hunter's pushing, go ahead. It's the Gold Fury. That was just really, really unfortunate timing for that whole exchange to happen. And I say unfortunate like it was unplanned, but that's definitely something that I think Spacestation took note of when they made that play on the right side of the map.
It's exactly why we saw the other 2 members from Spacestation immediately dip. Baskin could have probably stuck around and helped Aquarius out a little bit more, but Spacestation... Aquarius probably making the call. Gold Fury about to spawn anyway, guys.
Yep.
Leave me to die. Head on over to the other side of the map. Help out BaRRa. And BaRRa, of course, he's always going to be happy to just AFK farm in the wave. I mean, I don't think any hunter would ever complain about all of that juicy XP. Sitting at level 19 now. The only other person outranking him on his team is going to be Baskin, who just ticked in at 20.
Tied up with the solo laner, Aquarius as well. A couple of levels down on the players on the side of Nocturnes. Spacestation now looking on the right side of the map for objectives. Beltway gets controlled by the jungler in the solo. Damage coming out of the Janus. Jumping forward is Noitulover, and that one's going to be good enough to watch Spacestation grab the objective. Here comes Nocturnes on the afterthought, but the Guardian's in trouble. Beltway through the portal as well. Nice response from Nocturnes as they find the escape down south. Smite and AderHoulder might be in trouble, though.
But just look at how gross this sustain is. Baskin's still alive. Aquarius, alongside of BaRRaCCuDDa, are going to be able to find Noitulover on the backside, who was looking to help peel even further. They're so split apart. Everybody from Nocturnes just went off in their own directions, trying to find picks, trying to find escape routes, and now they're just getting collapsed on one by one.
Beltway's going to eat it. 22 minutes in, Spacestation Gaming taking control of this game. 6,000 gold up, Fire Giant in their sights. Smite's here, doesn't have an ultimate. Probably shouldn't mess with this.
Zion might be looking to engage onto Andy with SmiteVOD close by. Fire Giant fairly low, but neither of them interested in trying to contest it. Sometimes you just gotta accept your losses where they're at, and I think that Nocturnes have done a great job at knowing when and when not to fight here, but it's just like coming up just shy of full success because sure, they might find a counter gank or a strong initiation, but it always seems as though Spacestation is constantly thinking about the objective and just barely one step ahead. Yeah,
that's kind of what's been happening here. Nocturnes has, like you said, as they had a couple of good moments early game, and I want to see them be more proactive. I think that game number 1 is a good opportunity to kind of see what your opponent's going to present, and then you can react. But Nocturnes showed a couple of moments where they were able to make the first step, and they looked really good for it. So the repeated invades, some of those team fights on the left side. I want to see more of that from Nocturnes.
And something kind of interesting to note as well, because you specifically mentioned that their early game seemed strong. I was actually talking with Kliz a decent amount yesterday. He's the solo laner for Black Dragons, and he even said Nocturnes, they always do so well in the early game. Yeah. And that it's really cool being able to scrim them so often because you get the best of both worlds and they both can kind of pull away from each other. I want to see Nocturnes maybe try and adopt a little bit more of that Black Dragons mid to late game kind of team fighting style.
Right now they need it. 23 minutes in, definitely in the mid to late game here. Spacestation just walking down middle lane, no problem. Almost 10K, the 1,500 from this one. We'll get them close to that number. And Spacestation taking care of all of the towers. going to stick here in the middle lane for the Phoenix, it looks like.
Poor Dead, man. So hard to deal damage to anybody. You've got Fire Giant regen and all of that self-sustain. These Phoenix Sieges are going to be rough because if Nocturnes don't find an immediate pick onto Baskin or someone, it's just over.
Baskin uses the ultimate right off the bat. There's trouble as andinster finds his way to the back line. Everybody else from Space Station trying to deal. Ultimate from the mid lane. Janus going to cut BaRRaCCuDDa in half. Aquarius also going to suffer it. Phoenix, 100% healthy. Nice defense coming out from Nocturnes, and they only used 2 ults.
Well, 3 if you count Noito. It just hasn't ticked off yet, but
he's still in it.
Look at Space Station's health bars, though. They're already back to full HP. They just backed off and reset, and Nocturnes invested quite a lot here. Now the engagement's coming back in. JeffHindla's going to get swarmed up, and he just gets taken out.
Just gone, deleted, denied, and delicious for Nocturnes. The Guardian's going to fall down, but so will the Phoenix. 5-on-4. Nocturnes looking to respond with damage, but andinster's going to cut that down. Zaionsix gets set down. Beltway in trouble as well, but Baskin from a distance makes sure to take down the Janus. And it's 4 players. Not quite confident enough to look for the Titan. Left side Phoenix it is.
I think they could have looked for the Titan, but Space Station just playing it safe over sorry. Nocturnes did do a pretty good or strong job defending on that mid Phoenix. Initially, it was just unfortunate that they weren't able to find that pick onto JeffHindla a little bit sooner. The second go around is just too little too late because they've already healed and you've already expended a couple of your team fighting ultimates that you needed earlier.
AderHoulder will be up in about 25 seconds. Zaionsix at about 10. Space Station are going to wait it out. They're walking backwards. Gold Fury maybe for fun, but I think the red buff certainly more important. So does Baskin, so he'll pick that one up. Full reset coming out from Space Station here, 26 minutes in. We've got 18 kills, and Space Station have 2/3 of them at 12. Over 10,000 gold in the lead as well. And Taco, Nocturnes were able to dance like we said, but look at that. About 20 minutes in, I think it all went to hell.
I would have to agree with that. And it's, I don't want to call it unlucky, but Nocturnes just weren't able to transition some of that early game potential into their mid and late stages. And I think that that is just credit to Space Station's amount of experience looking at their roster. But I am really excited for Game 2 between these two teams because I know that Nocturnes are a team that can certainly recognize those sort of issues and then try and adapt and adjust.
One thing, speaking of adjusting and adaptation, Nocturnes yesterday, and in all their interviews, they said, look, you know, and day 1 and day 2, they said, we got to be better at objectives and specifically timings and the jungle, right? And Beltway's up there, like, looking actually mad. It's one of the things I love about Beltway is that he's confident to an extreme, you know, where he, like, takes it personally. And I love that. And this game, the timings on those buffs were impeccable. They got invaded on that red buff once and then immediately back to it. That's really important. Making those small changes, I think that's one of the best things about watching this team.
And I think Beltway probably going to take it a little bit harder on himself than what he needs to. Space Station is just one of those teams where you can't afford even the slightest of a mishap. And Nocturnes knows that for a fact. I mean, I do still fully believe that they are a team capable of competing at an SPL level with NA or EU. It's just that this is an instance where they lost control of one side of the map and weren't able to properly punish on the opposite end, and that's also credit to Space Station for just how they played. andinster really stepping it up there to make sure that he could mitigate the damage that was actually happening towards that duo because it was starting to go more in favor towards Nocturnes actually. And then Andy just like, okay, no, this isn't happening. Bear is my baby. We'll take care of this.
That is pretty much how it went down, honestly. And as I look at Nocturnes, I never like to pretend to be in the players' heads, but it almost looks like Nocturnes are playing against a team that they're not afraid of, but are overly cautious. There were a couple of moments where Nocturnes sort of forgot who they were playing against and went for a play, and it worked. I think Nocturnes needs to internalize that more.
I do think that they hesitated a little bit too much and backed off where they shouldn't have. A primary example would be around some of the earlier Gold Fury pools where I think they could have potentially shoved Space Station off of the objective, but allowing Space Station to pull it if Spacestation gets that objective down to half health, they're going to fully commit because Searing Pain versus Through Space and Time, Ra usually wins that.
I'll take that every time. And right now, Beltway is going to be taken to the back line. Pull, push, combo. Noitulover half HP, going to dodge out the nonsense from the Hercules as well. Beltway dashes forward, but there's the ultimate from Baskin, just a hair short. Aquarius can't catch up either. The solo laner gets on out of there, but the Phoenix, on the other hand, still alive for now. There it goes, tumbling down. Noitulover also going to do the same. Mid lane Phoenix just respawned. Space Station good to delete that one, no problem as well.
And Zion forced out of his Astral Barrage there. Didn't even get a chance to fire off the shots, just used it as an escape method from Andy's full commit there. Smitevo though, and Beltway looking to punish andinster, but the mid Phoenix ends up falling in the process. JeffHindla possibly looking for the pull here. Through Space and Time does connect, however, and that's going to prompt Space Station to back off.
Andy
just
is
kidding.
So tanky though.
Baskin just sniped it dead.
Ader falls down. Andy has this full tank build, complete with Nemean Lion. He got hit by the Through Space and Time, and it didn't even seem to matter.
Baskin's damage is unreal, man. AderHoulder was not even grossly out of position by any means. He's in his own base.
Yep.
And these Searing Pains are just destroying right now. But that's going to be the third Firebird for Space Station. And Nocturnes, they're left on the defensive. And only the Titan to help him out.
AderHoulder still down for 25 seconds. Space Station Gaming looking for the kills and the plays. And he gets Noitulover. That's number 15 for Space Station Gaming. And the Titan down to half HP. Baskin grabs lucky number 7. And the game goes to Space Station.
Respect the Nocturnes for still trying to make sure that they could maybe shove Space Station away, but with 3 waves of fire minions and creeps in general just shoving in, it's so difficult to try and clear everything out in the process, especially considering how healthy everybody from Space Station was. That sustained composition is so devastating.
Yeah, that was a really good play. Itemization coming out from Nocturnes was solid and sound as well. Second item built was the Barless Beat Stick. Very quickly after that, in the jungle, very quickly after that, we saw the Divine Ruin come out in the mid lane. Just wasn't enough to really bring it home.
Yeah, it's not like they weren't trying to build anti-heal.
No.
I mean, that was happening the whole way through. I don't believe that they had a Cursed Ankh online. I think that could have possibly helped out a little bit, but considering how much self-sustain every single one of the team or members from Space Station had, it's still incredibly difficult to try and punish that. It's just one of those comps where you have to kill them numerous times early on to snowball a lead.
Interesting stuff coming out from the boys on Space Station. Usually it's Baskin doing the heavy lifting. Not so sure here. I really liked what Andy did as well. I think he had a lot of setup. So let us know in Mixer Chat who you think the MVP is, and we'll ask the desk directly who they think the MVP is.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Taco. Space Station were able to take game 1, and they did it relatively cleanly. Finch here, I got aggro with me as well. And what was it that kind of went wrong here for this Nocturnes roster, or was it a bunch of things?
I think it was a combination of things. I mean, you can't let Baskin get a god like Ra and then receive no pressure at all. The Janus pick has got to be used to dropship you and the Raven right in front of the Ra. That's the best way to deal with someone like Ra. He wants to keep you at a distance, get up in its face, and Raven and Janus can do that very well. But when Space Station has that much peel for him, when there's that much sustain as well, you heard them talking about it there at the back end of the cast, you can have your Brawlers Beat Sticks and your Divine Ruins, and it's not going to be enough. You need an upgraded Cursed Ankh, and you need potentially even 2 against a roster that has that much sustain. And then, I mean, look, for my money, Tom asked us who we thought is an MVP. I thought it was Aquarius for the first, X minutes of the game until that final Titan Siege started happening, and then Baskin literally, brushes off AderHoulder for daring to hit him with a Through Space and Time. It's just gross with how good this guy is.
Yeah, Baskin is going to be the MVP selected by you all there in Mixer Chat, and I agree with you. For most of the game, I feel like it was a bit of a team effort. In fact, Aquarius looked excellent for them as well, but this Raw play from him was just excellent. I mean, you remember there's the play underneath the Tier 1 tower where Andy blinks in, knocks up, and Baskin's there perfectly with the snipe over the top to get the kill. I mean, Baskin, if there's even a half second of setup, my dude's hitting it even most of the times without setup. He's just that good.
I mean, he had plenty of setup. Don't get me wrong. I think a lot of players, any SPL level mid laner, could have done the stuff off of the Erlang setup, but it's the moments like this where, oh, how dare you touch me? Yeah, sit down. Thank you. That's
the
Baskin moment right there. I mean, the dude is just crazy.
But you talked about this Raw and how there wasn't much pressure on it earlier. Even Taco touched on it during the cast, right? SmiteVOD was putting a lot of focus on the solo jungle side of the map, right? Not just invading those back XP camps, but he was kind of looking towards the solo lane a lot too, and there wasn't really much there. Aquarius was so big, so early, it was really no chance to slow him down. They kind of got to cut those losses and rotate sooner.
Well, that's kind of the strategy that Nocturnes must have came up with in response to what Spacestation was doing against Dignitas. Maybe they decided that, okay, maybe we just can't fight them on the red buff, and their picks and bans tell me that was the idea. I mean, Fafnir is not the duo lane you want to be fighting on a red buff with. So instead, they say, all right, we'll let Spacestation jump all over our red and our purple and gold Furies, but we'll just let SmiteVOD get real big off invading XP camps on the right, because andinster is going to need to be on the left in order to support on those invades. But then Aquarius just becomes massive. I mean, he solos Beltway. Aquarius is now unkillable, so any chance that you have of finding a 2v1 in that lane is now gone, and your duo lane is falling farther and farther behind. Nocturnes is a team that performs in the early game, and trying to let Spacestation dictate the early game and then say, we'll get him whenever we start to group in the 4v4s and the 5v5s. We could be down 2,000 gold, but we feel like you can out-team fight them. I don't think that's the right response. If I'm on Nocturnes, I am picking early fight potential. Not just pressure, but fight potential around my own red buff, and I'm daring Spacestation to come to me and try and fight.
And Spacestation did such a good job, I think, of discombobulating Nocturnes through their early game. I think that kind of forced Nocturnes to play this way in this set. You remember there was a good kill they get, I feel like it was around like maybe the 8-minute mark, where they use through space and time defensively, but then they come back through it into the mid lane. They find a pick, plus Baskin kind of had to fall back afterwards with no ult. They could have gone to Gold Fury, potentially at least forced a fight there, Ryan, but instead they kind of just stand around in mid lane. They go back and get their own camps. It's those moments that they can't seize, I think, that are some of the big differences here.
Exactly, and a lot of that comes down to experience, but though this team has a lot of experience at this international level, I think it's confidence more than anything else. I mean, it's difficult to find the right opportunities.
That's part of where confidence comes from, though, right? Is from that experience. Yeah.
Sure, it is, but I don't think this team is lacking in experience necessarily. It's just that they feel like they have to be on the back foot against a team like Spacestation, and that's just, it's not easy to win when that's the way you feel like you need to play, on the retreat all the time.
Yeah, and so in this case, I think that was the play we just saw there too, where they had an opportunity and they weren't able to find it. But I certainly do want to give them some credit, though. They did play well through that early game. I mean, Zaionsix in particular was finding some shots, able to get a couple early picks for them. They just couldn't leverage it correctly. And I give a lot of that credit to andinster. He was putting so much pressure. Yes, Zaionsix got a couple good early kills, but then Andy rotated over and was like, all right,
yeah,
sit down.
Exactly. And I like that adjustment from Spacestation, because we didn't really see Andy camping duo lane a whole lot towards the beginning and the middle of the spring split. It was a lot of just focus on getting Baskin ahead. Baskin is a character that can just kind of do it by himself, right? He can pick the pressure gods, and you can rely on him to win his lane handily against almost anyone in the league, or at least give himself an opportunity to win the lane.
Right.
Let Andy come in and be opportunistic in the mid lane when necessary, feed Baskin some kills, get him kills for himself, but also head over to the left-hand side a little bit. Get BaRRaCCuDDa ahead, because BaRRa has proven that, even though the meta is a little bit different now in the Hunter role, if he's ahead, he's still going to be the same great ADC that we're used to seeing from years past. So if Andy can go there and make that a dedicated effort, I think that Spacestation becomes an infinitely scarier team.
Boy, we just saw that gank in mid lane by andinster. What's AderHoulder supposed to do there? I mean, he beads the second that it happens, but it's already too late. He's up in the air. I mean, it's just too quick from these two between Baskin and andinster. And I think this is when Spacestation's at their scariest, when Baskin and andinster are both playing at that high level like that. Sometimes you feel like maybe it's kind of Baskin and the rest of the team are just facilitating him. But when Andy is like his own separate entity, like you said, maybe in duo lane, creating problems, and you got to worry about Baskin, that's when it's really, really tough to slow this team down.
I don't know if tough's the right word. Impossible might be the correct word.
I might have been too nice there.
Exactly.
Impossible.
I mean, if both Andy and Baskin are firing on all cylinders, and that gets BaRRa ahead, it gets Jeff ahead, it gets Aquarius ahead, it's lights out for just about anybody. And that's why Dignitas had so much success on making sure that Cuvo Fred was the one who got a lot of the farm, and trying to get him ahead so that he can keep Baskin and Andy in the duo lane down.
But now let's